The air tastes of iron and rot. When I wake, the world is gray, ash drifting through the ruins of what was once a cathedral. The stone around me sweats with condensation, cold as the breath of the void. I smell burned flesh beneath the incense, the ghost of the faithful mingling with the acrid tang of promethium. Somewhere beyond the collapsed transept, an auto pulpit hums, its vox grills stuttering fragments of the litanies of endurance. The sound trembles like an insect trapped inside a jar. I rise slowly. My knees grind against the floor, powdered mortar, sacred dust. My robes are stiff with soot, edges crisped by fire. The rosarius at my neck flickers once, then stabilizes with a faint blue hum. A relic from the Schola Progenium, standard issue to missionaries of the Ecclesiarchy, and yet in this ruin it feels like blasphemy. A toy of faith amidst the bones of saints. I whisper the opening cant of cleansing, though my throat is dry as parchment. By the Emperor's light, all things unclean shall be made pure. The words scrape my tongue, brittle, memorized. Nothing answers me but the slow drip of condensation into an empty chalice. I have been sent to this place, Hive Vesalius, once glorious, to bring faith to the remnants, to speak light into the dark. But all I find are echoes. The vox crackles. Missionary secundus orincale. Confirm survival. The voice is tin and static. I click the transmitter at my wrist. Alive, I croak. The congregation, uncertain. There is laughter on the other end, short, mechanical. Then preach, Kale. Make them certain. The channel dies. Silence blooms again. I step out into the street, if the word still applies. Buildings lean like supplicants, their steel spines showing through cracked skin. The smog turns everything a sick shade of amber. A servo skull hovers near, auspex light scanning my face, then drifting away like a disinterested spirit. I pass corpses kneeling in eternal prayer, calcified, blackened. The war was months ago, but the air still vibrates with its memory. The heretics came with their false saint, their demon banner, and the guards scoured them from existence. In their wake, I am the broom. I find them by the fountain. Survivors. 20, maybe 30, gaunt as wire. Eyes hollow. They huddle around a burning barrel, its flames too blue to be natural. When I approach, the fire sputters, as if it senses me. My flock, I begin. They stare. One man mutters something in low Gothic, words like stones in his mouth. I kneel beside the fire, extending my hands toward them. The heat licks my palms. It smells of chem fuel, sharp and sweet. I come bearing the Emperor's word. I continue. He watches. He endures. A woman spits. He watched when they burned my child. The others murmur assent. I taste bile. In the Schola, they teach us to convert through conviction, not pity. Pity breeds heresy. So I lift my voice. The Emperor does not watch to save us. He watches to test us. Faith is not comfort, it is endurance. Through suffering, we prove our devotion. They fall silent. For a moment, I believe I have them. Then a boy steps forward, face half-seared, one eye milky white. He holds out a small object, a charm of bone, etched with the 8-pointed star. My breath stops. This, he says, kept my father safe. Your Emperor did not. The symbol burns in my vision. The mark of chaos, faint, almost innocent. I should destroy it. I should destroy him. But I do not move, because, for the briefest instant, I envy his certainty. That night, I cannot sleep. The ash shifts when I breathe, whispering shapes in the dark. My hands tremble around my rosarius. I recite the catechism of warding until dawn bleeds through the cracks in the wall. It does not help. The words have become noise, hollow syllables echoing in a chamber too wide for meaning. When the sun, if that pale smear can be called such, rises, I perform the rite of benediction alone. The survivors watch from afar, curious. I anoint the ground with sacred oil, the smell thick and metallic. I chant the litanies of restoration, each syllable punctuated by the chime of a censer. The ritual demands faith. I have none left, only procedure. And yet, when I finish, a small thing happens. The wind changes. It carries away the stench for a moment. The survivors kneel. Whether in reverence or fear, I cannot tell. In that silence, I almost believe. Then I see the boy again, clutching his chaos charm. He is smiling. My mouth goes dry. I realize then that belief, true belief, is not gentle. It devours. So I take the charm from him. He does not resist. His eyes shine with some expectation I cannot name. I drop it into the brazier. The bone cracks, the star blackens, and a thin wail rises from the smoke. The crowd gasps. I feel it in my teeth, a vibration, a plea. I should speak a prayer. Instead, I whisper, "Forgive me." The wail dies. The smoke disperses. The boy's face is unreadable. The act should have reaffirmed my faith. Instead, I feel empty, hollowed by something vast and unseen. The Emperor's light burns, but it burns everything. Perhaps that is its purpose. When I return to the ruined cathedral, I kneel before the cracked altar. My voice is raw as I pray. "Emperor, show me the truth of your mercy." The silence that follows is not absence. It is attention. I feel it pressing against my thoughts, peeling them open like wet parchment. I tremble. Tears blur my vision. And then I hear it. Not a voice, but a weight behind my heart, a wordless command. Believe, even if it kills you. I bow until my forehead touches the stone. The ash sticks to my skin, mingling with sweat. The sensation is grounding, real. I cling to it like a drowning man to driftwood. When I lift my head, the light has shifted. The smoke outside glows gold, almost holy. I tell myself it is a sign. It must be. Tomorrow, I will preach again. I will make them believe. Even if I must burn their doubts away with mine. I whisper the closing litany. The words taste of blood and ash. By faith, we endure. By endurance, we are made pure. The wind carries my voice into the ruins, scattering it like a prayer lost to the void. The morning reeks of incense and melted plastic. I have taken to burning sacred oil in the aisles of the ruined cathedral, though I know it does little but stain the air with cloying smoke. The survivors watch me through the shattered doorway, their eyes dull and unreadable. They do not enter unless summoned. Perhaps they sense what I sense, that this place has become something other than holy. The walls weep. Moisture runs down the carved visages of saints, tracing dark veins across stone faces eroded by war. I wipe them clean with my sleeve, as though that could absolve the centuries of decay. When I press my fingers to the altar, it hums faintly. The relics beneath, fragments of martyr bone, data shrines, sacred circuits, still breathe with the Emperor's machine spirit. Or so I tell myself. I light another candle. The wax sizzles when it meets the stone. The sermon yesterday should have strengthened me, but instead it has left a residue. I can feel the echo of that child's smile behind my eyes, the way his faith in heresy was unshaken even as I burned his talisman. It was not defiance. It was devotion, the mirror of my own. And mirrors are dangerous things in this age. I kneel. My knees crack. The smell of oil and ash fills my lungs until I can almost taste sanctity. I whisper, "Emperor, grant me the sight to see truth through shadow." My voice sounds smaller each day. Outside, the survivors have begun clearing rubble, building crude shelters. I told them it was their penance, labor for redemption. In truth, I envy them. The simplicity of motion, the comfort of exhaustion. I am left only with thought, and thought festers. The vox on my wrist stirs to life. Missionary Kale, report progress. The voice again, mechanicus tone, clipped and inhuman. Faith rekindled, I reply. A pause. Then, rekindled or manufactured? Static floods the line before I can answer. I realize, with a chill, that I do not know. Later, as I walk among the rubble, I hear the survivors whispering. He speaks to himself, one says. No, another answers. He speaks to someone. Perhaps they are right. That night, I cannot rest. The air is too heavy, too alive. The candles gutter, forming shapes in their smoke. Wings, halos, the outline of a skull. I try to pray, but the words loop endlessly, turning inward, collapsing into syllables that no longer mean anything. I press my palm to the stone floor, desperate for something solid. The stone is warm. I should be afraid. Instead, I feel seen. In the half-light, I open my journal, a relic of my training. its pages lined with the decrees of St. Drusus. My handwriting grows uneven as I write. Faith is the art of burning the self until only light remains. But light weighs more than flesh. Perhaps that is why martyrs kneel, not in reverence, but under the burden. The quill trembles. I hear movement in the nave. The boy again, the one whose charm I destroyed. He stands by the doorway, silent. His expression is calm, unbothered by the ruin. "You burned it," he says. "Yes." "Did it hurt?" "For who?" He shrugs. "You tell me." I have no answer. His gaze lingers on the altar, then on me. I sense a challenge in it. Not hatred, but curiosity. It frightens me more than rage ever could. "Go," I tell him. "Sleep." "I don't dream anymore," he says. "Not since the fire." When he leaves, the silence returns thicker than before. I realize I am shaking. I force myself to work, to rebuild. I gather fragments of icons, reforging them with wire and sealant. Each statue becomes a composite of ruin, a virgin of steel with a servo eye, a cherub carved from flak plating. It is not beautiful, but it is faithful in its ugliness. Like the Imperium itself, days pass, or hours. Time fractures in the dim light. I preach twice daily now, though my sermons have grown strange. I speak less of salvation and more of endurance. I tell them that the Emperor's light is not meant to comfort, but to cauterize. The more I say it, the truer it feels. One evening, while the congregation chants, the air shifts. The candles flare white, and for a moment the walls glow as if lit from within. I feel it in my bones, a pulse, a whisper of approval or warning. The smell of ozone fills the air. The boy drops to his knees. The others follow. "Do you see?" I cry. The Emperor sees us. But beneath the brilliance, I glimpse something else, a second shadow cast against the light. It moves wrong, bending around corners, curling like smoke into the rafters. My words falter. I taste copper. The moment ends. The light fades. The congregation disperses in uneasy silence. I remain kneeling long after, palms raw from gripping the altar. The stone hums louder now. The relics beneath have awakened. Or perhaps I have. I whisper, "If this is your light, Emperor, why does it feel like drowning?" The silence that answers is almost merciful. When I finally sleep, I dream of a great hand descending from the stars, its fingers made of flame and bone. It reaches not to bless, but to crush. And as it closes around me, I feel something inside yield, not break, but change. Like glass turned to sand. I wake gasping. My robes are soaked through. The air glows faintly blue, the residue of unseen power. I stagger to the door. The sky above Hive Vesalius is alive with auroras, threads of gold and violet twisting through the smog. The others watch in awe. I know what they will call it, a miracle. But I know better. Miracles are simply truths too heavy for sanity to bear. The boy looks up at me. "Is it him?" "Yes," I lie. He smiles again. That same terrible, innocent smile. As dawn breaks, I realize I have stopped questioning the whispers. I am no longer sure where prayer ends and command begins. The Emperor's light grows heavier by the day. Silence has a texture. It presses against my skin like damp cloth, clinging, suffocating. The air in the cathedral no longer moves. Even the dust seems reluctant to fall. I have extinguished the candles. The darkness feels cleaner. The Emperor's light, I have begun to suspect, is not found in flame but in its absence. I have not eaten in 3 days. The body must be reduced so that the soul may expand. Hunger sharpens prayer. Each pang is a syllable of devotion. I whisper the litanies of abasement until my tongue feels raw, until the words blur into a single continuous plea. The silence answers with patience. The congregation no longer comes to me. I told them to remain outside, to build, to labor, to let faith temper them through exhaustion. Yet sometimes I glimpse them through the broken doors, gaunt figures, their faces streaked with soot, their eyes too bright. They pray without guidance now. That should comfort me, but it does not. They murmur strange phrases I do not recognize, fragments of my own sermons turned backward, like echoes distorted by the void. I scour the altar with a rag soaked in holy oil. The smell fills my head. Copper, incense, faintly sweet decay. The relic beneath pulses faintly. It should not do that. I tell myself it is a malfunction of the servo shrine. A trick of the senses. The mechanicus would call it spirit resonance. I call it attention. Last night, I saw a movement behind the altar, a shimmer like heat distortion. It vanished when I turned. Yet the feeling remains, as though something is breathing with me, pacing its rhythm to mine. I kneel. The stone is cold through my robes. Emperor, I whisper, why do you hide behind silence? My voice cracks. I burn for you. I strip myself bare for you. Is that not enough? Nothing. Only the faint hum of the relic, a mechanical heartbeat. In the Schola, they told us silence is the Emperor's most profound reply. But I am learning that silence is a blade. It carves away what you think you are until nothing remains but the sound of your own breathing. The door creaks. Missionary, a voice calls, soft, hesitant. The boy. Again. He enters without permission this time. His face is thinner, his eyes deeper set. The others are afraid, he says. They hear things at night. Voices from the ruins. Faith always speaks in darkness, I tell him. They say it sounds like you. The words strike harder than they should. Leave, I manage. Return to them. He doesn't move. What if the voice isn't yours? Then, before I can answer, he adds, what if it's him? I cannot tell if he means the Emperor or something else. When he leaves, the silence folds around me again, thicker, alive. That night, the dreams return. I am standing before a vast mirror that shows no reflection. Instead, it hums, low and deep, like the engines of a great cathedral ship. I reach toward it, and the surface ripples. A hand emerges, my own, but stripped of flesh, shining with a pale inner fire. When it touches me, the skin of my chest smokes, and I awaken screaming. The smell of burned fabric fills the air. My rosarius glows red hot, its light crawling across my skin like insects. I fling it away. It lands beside the altar, still humming. I stare at it for a long time. The rosarius is supposed to protect me. Perhaps protection is not what I need. At dawn, I step outside. The sky is a bruise, purple and sickly. The survivors kneel in the street, whispering their twisted litanies. I listen closely and realize they are not speaking Gothic anymore. The syllables scrape the ear, liquid and sharp. It should terrify me. Instead, I feel envy. Their faith has evolved. Mine remains stagnant, trapped in ritual. One of them, the woman who spat at me the first day, raises her head. Her eyes are glazed with tears. We heard your voice, she says. It told us to build the tower. I follow her gesture. Near the edge of the ruin stands a crude structure of debris and steel beams, rising toward the smoke-dark sky. The symbol etched into its side is wrong, too symmetrical, too alive. I feel the hairs on my neck rise. That is not my work, I whisper. But your words guided us, she insists. You said the Emperor's light descends upon those who reach for it. Did I? The memory is unclear. Perhaps I did. They continue their labor. I do not stop them. Part of me wants to see what happens when the tower is complete. Back inside, I scourge myself, lashes of sanctified wire across my back. Each strike is a syllable of faith. Blood drips down my spine, warm, metallic. The pain clears thought. For a moment, I feel pure, clean. The silence shifts, not gone, but listening, approving. I write in my journal again. Faith is infection. The holy disease spreads best through open wounds. My handwriting shakes. I am no longer sure these are my thoughts. Later, as I rest against the cold stone, the relic beneath the altar begins to vibrate again. The sound deepens until it becomes a chant, low and mechanical, in a language I almost understand. My vision swims. The walls pulse. I see faces in the cracks, not saints, but something older, hungrier. I crawl toward the altar and press my forehead against it. The hum grows stronger, resonating with the rhythm of my heart. I can taste metal in my mouth. Show me, I whisper. If this is your test, show me how to pass it. A flash, bright, searing, absolute. I am blinded. When sight returns, the cathedral is silent again. But the altar bears a new mark, a handprint burned into the stone, its edges still smoking. My handprint. I laugh until I choke. When I stagger outside, the tower has grown taller. The survivors chant in unison, their voices rising like static. The boy stands atop the half-built structure, his arms raised. The light of the false dawn catches him, and for a moment I swear I see wings made of ash unfurl behind him. I should stop this. I should tear the tower down. Instead, I watch, because beneath the dread, something stirs, a warmth, an understanding. Perhaps this, too, is the Emperor's will. Perhaps purity is not silence, but transformation. The boy's voice carries over the ruin. Do you see, missionary? The light listens. I raise my eyes to the bruise-colored sky. The auroras shimmer again, brighter this time, descending toward the tower like molten glass. The air crackles with energy. My robes whip around me in the sudden wind. And for the first time, the silence between prayers breaks. Something answers. The tower grows taller each day. Its frame is a skeleton of scavenged beams and prayer-etched girders, bound together by devotion and rust. The faithful drag the remnants of war into its base, twisted armor plates, cogitator cores, bones. They stack everything skyward, a monument of ruin and hope. The structure groans when the wind passes through it, and the sound is almost like chanting. They call it the Tower of Listening Dust. They claim the Emperor hears them better here. I once might have called that heresy. Now, I find comfort in the name. I stand before the base each dawn, leading them in prayer. My voice cracks, but they do not care. To them, the cracking is proof of holiness. They say the Emperor's power is burning me from within, refining me like gold and fire. They do not see the truth, that it is not fire but infection, spreading beneath my skin like fever. When I close my eyes, I hear the tower hum. It vibrates through the ground, through my bones, a subsonic hymn. The pitch changes with the prayers of the faithful, as if the tower is learning the rhythm of our belief. The boy is always near the top. He directs the others with calm authority, his voice unwavering. They obey him as much as they obey me, sometimes more. I tell myself this is good, the faith spreading without my command, but the thought tastes bitter. Missionary Kale, he says one morning, when the smog burns pale gold. The tower listens to you most closely. It reacts when you speak. I study him. The light catches the burn scar on his face, making it look like molten glass. All towers listen to the Emperor. I say. He tilts his head. Then why does it say your name? I want to rebuke him. Instead, I ask, what does it say? He smiles, that same terrible, innocent smile. It says, believe deeper. The words coil in my chest, heavy and sweet. Inside the cathedral, I kneel before the altar and open the service vox to record a sermon for transmission. The Ecclesiarchy's networks are unreliable out here, but ritual demands communication. The machine spirit flickers alive. My reflection stares back from the cracked screen, pale, sunken-eyed, with ash caked into the lines of my face. Faithful of the Imperium, I begin. You may not know my voice. You may not know my world. But the Emperor sees. He endures. Through ruin, through silence, through the smoke of our failures, his gaze does not waver. The tower hums in response, faint but clear even through the vox static. I pause, heart hammering. I feel as though I am being overheard, not by the living, but by something vast and unseen, pressing close against the veil of perception. I continue. We build not for glory. We build because to stop building is to die. The hum deepens. The vox begins to distort. For a moment, another voice overlaps mine, identical in tone, but inverted, each word dragging a second after the first like a shadow of speech. We build not for glory. We build because to stop building is to be born. I cut the vox. My hands tremble. The silence that follows feels like relief. When I step outside, the congregation has gathered. Their eyes gleam with feverish light. They tell me they heard my sermon through the tower itself, not through any speaker, but through the very air. They say the Emperor's words flowed from the dust, from the metal, from the stone. I do not correct them. That night, The dreams return stronger. I walk through a great cathedral that extends forever, its walls carved with faces pressed into prayer. They whisper as I pass, each mouth bleeding light. At the center stands the tower of listening dust, grown impossibly vast, reaching beyond sight. From its summit drips golden ash that smells of burned incense and skin. I climb. With each step, I lose something: memory, name, flesh. By the time I reach the top, I am only a thought suspended in radiance. There, waiting for me, is the boy. He opens his hand, and in his palm burns a small, perfect sun. "Do you see?" he asks. "It is not the Emperor who listens," I answer. "It is what listens through him." He smiles. "It's the same thing." I wake screaming, my throat raw, my sheets soaked with sweat. The tower's hum continues in the distance, unbroken. It knows I am awake. The following day, a storm rolls over Vesalius. Thunder like orbital bombardment. The faithful refuse to stop building. They climb the tower even as lightning forks across the sky, shouting praises into the gale. Each strike leaves their bodies glowing faintly, the ozone turning their skin silver. None of them fall. I stand in the doorway of the cathedral, robes whipping in the wind. The tower hums louder than the storm. I feel its vibration in my teeth. My rosarius flares white, then dies, smoke curling from the circuitry. The boy calls down to me from the upper beams. "Missionary," the Emperor answers. I look up. Above him, the auroras twist into a spiral, descending toward the spire's point. The air thickens, charged, alive with invisible current. "Do not look directly at him," I shout, though I do not know why. The command feels borrowed, someone else's voice inside my mouth. The spiral touches the spire. The sound that follows is not thunder. It is choir song. Thousands of voices, layered and perfect, vibrating every atom of air. The faithful fall to their knees. The tower blazes like liquid sunlight, casting shadows that move on their own. I cover my eyes. Behind my lids, I still see it. A shape within the light, vast and formless, crowned with halos that fold like wings. It speaks without words, filling my skull with its weight. "You called." We answered. "Build higher." I collapse to my knees. The taste of copper floods my mouth. Blood trickles from my nose. The tower's light fades, leaving afterimages that burn in my vision. When I can finally breathe, the boy is standing beside me, untouched by the storm. His eyes glow faintly gold. "What did you see?" I whisper. He tilts his head, listening to something distant. "Only what you taught us to believe." The storm passes. The air reeks of ozone and sanctity. The tower now reaches so high it disappears into the smog above. The faithful work in silence, reverent. None question what happened. They do not have to. I record another sermon that night, though I do not send it anywhere. I speak only to the tower, to the dust, to the silence that hums beneath my heartbeat. "Emperor," I whisper, "if this is your light, then show me where it ends." The silence trembles in reply, almost like laughter. Outside, the tower hums a single, perfect note, the sound of belief deepening beyond reason. And I, kneeling in the ruins, find myself humming with it. The mornings are longer now. The sun never rises cleanly. It seeps through the smog like pus through a wound. The light feels sick, alive. I wake to the sound of chanting. It never stops anymore. Even when the congregation sleeps, their throats whisper prayers in rhythm with the tower's hum. The sound permeates everything: the ground, the air, the beat of my pulse. I used to think it was outside me. Now I know better. It lives in me, vibrating beneath my ribs like a second heart. I have begun to change. My skin is dry, flaking in patches shaped like script. Sometimes when I wash, I see faint sigils beneath the surface, letters forming and fading like ink on paper. I do not recognize the language, but I know it means devotion. The boy calls them the Emperor's hieroglyphs. He touches them reverently when he passes. I let him. I no longer feel shame. Each day, the tower reaches higher. It hums in different tones now, a full spectrum of sound that shifts with the weather, with our moods, with the pitch of my sermons. It has learned to sing. The faithful come to me with offerings: teeth, nails, strips of cloth soaked in their blood. They leave them at my feet like votives. I accept them all. Their eyes shine with something that looks like love but is sharper, more devouring. I am no longer their teacher. I am their altar. When I preach, the words come unbidden. I no longer prepare them. They pour out of me, smooth and relentless, like a flood breaking through stone. Faith is not a bridge, I tell them. It is a pit. We fall willingly, trusting the light will meet us at the bottom. They nod, enraptured. Some cut their palms as I speak, mingling blood with ash. The smell of iron fills the cathedral. It is beautiful, in a way, beauty stripped of innocence. The boy visits me again in the night. He no longer sleeps. His eyes are twin candles in the dark. They hear you even in the outer ruins, he says. People are coming from other hives. They say miracles bloom where your shadow falls. Miracles? I ask. He nods. A woman touched a wall where you prayed. Her dead child began to cry again. For one heartbeat, she said, the body was warm. I want to tell him this is blasphemy, that resurrection belongs only to the Emperor, but the word dies in my throat. Perhaps faith has evolved beyond my comprehension. Perhaps miracles are not gifts, but consequences. Does it frighten you? I ask. He smiles faintly. No, it sings. The first true miracle happens during Mass. We gather in the nave, the tower humming above like an organ of steel and wind. I stand before the altar, my hands shaking. The faithful kneel, whispering. The air trembles with unseen current. I lift the censer. The smoke curls around me, sweet and acrid. I begin the litany of unyielding flesh. Through pain, we find the pattern. Through pattern, perfection. Through perfection, the Emperor. My voice falters. The hum grows louder, resonating with my chest. It becomes hard to breathe. My ribs ache as if something inside them is expanding. The boy begins to chant with me. The others join, their voices weaving with mine. The pitch rises, higher and higher, until the sound becomes physical, pressing against my skin, bending the air. My bones vibrate. Then, with a sudden crack, pain blossoms through my sternum. I fall to my knees. The congregation gasps. Blood drips from my lips, glowing faintly gold. Do not stop, I manage. Keep chanting. They obey. The pain deepens, wrapping around my spine like wire. My heartbeat syncs with the tower's rhythm. I hear it in my skull, not one sound, but many, a chorus without end. Each pulse births another note, another vibration, another layer of meaning. My body becomes an instrument. I scream, not in agony, but in music. The sound that leaves me is not human. It is a hymn made flesh, a resonance that shakes the cathedral to its foundation. The faithful weep. The boy kneels beside me, whispering, "He is remaking you." When the sound fades, I collapse. My skin steams. My chest glows faintly where the pain had been. The faithful reach out to touch me, and the glow spreads through them. For a moment, all of us shine. Then it ends. The air falls silent except for the hum of the tower. I lie there for what feels like hours. My body is lighter, my heartbeat strange, doubled, perhaps. When I finally stand, the congregation bows low. The boy looks up, his face reverent. "You sang his will," he says. I sang, I echo. Yes. After that day, the faithful no longer call me Missionary Kale. They call me Cantor. I no longer correct them. They ask for blessings through song. I hum, and wounds close. I speak, and the tower trembles with joy. The Mechanicus would call it heresy, unquantifiable, unclean. But the Imperium's boundaries feel distant here, half-remembered laws from another world. Out here, the Emperor's truth is alive. It shifts. The more I sing, the less I sleep. I dream awake. The walls breathe with my rhythm. The relic beneath the altar hums in harmony, and I begin to understand. It is not a relic at all, but a seed, a piece of something greater, something that wanted to grow. The boy comes again. "The people say you no longer bleed red," he murmurs. "Do they say what color it is?" "They say it is the color of dawn." At dusk, I climb the tower. The air is thin, electric. From this height, Hive looks like a carcass, black and endless. The faithful below look like insects scurrying through its ribs. Above me, the auroras pulse, low and inviting. I feel their pull in my teeth. At the top, I rest my palm against the metal. It is warm, alive. I feel its hum align with my own heartbeat until the two are indistinguishable. For a brief, terrible moment, I understand that the tower is not reaching upward. It is burrowing outward, into the spaces between what is and what might be. I whisper into the wind, "If you are there, let me see you." The air folds inward. Light spills like oil across the sky, and the silence answers, not with sound, but with understanding. I am no longer afraid, only hollow, ready to be filled. The mornings have no dawn now, only a slow bleaching of the smog until everything glows the color of a wound. The tower has swallowed the sky. Its top can no longer be seen. The hum that once soothed me now throbs like a heartbeat, irregular and wet. It pulses through the city, through the faithful, through me. The congregation no longer speaks much. They hum, always the same note. It echoes from their throats when they breathe, when they sleep, when they eat. The note has become our common tongue. My body is failing. Every movement grinds against the weight of my own blood. When I touch my chest, I feel warmth spreading from the scar where my ribs once cracked during the hymn. It glows faintly beneath the skin. Sometimes when I press my hand there, I can feel the rhythm of the tower answering back. We are linked, machine and flesh, shrine and believer. I am the bridge. The faithful have begun to gather the flakes of my peeling skin, mixing them with incense and burning them as offerings. They say the smoke tastes like light. When I asked how they could know, they smiled with teeth the color of gold dust. Each time I sing, more of me leaves the body, in breath, in blood, in sound. The people inhale the air I exhale and fall into trance. They call it communion. I call it survival. My faith has become food. Today, the boy brought me a vessel carved from the bones of the fallen tower workers. Inside it shimmered a viscous fluid, pale, luminous, alive. It gathered beneath the tower, he said. We think it's what the light leaves behind. I dipped my finger in it. The liquid was warm, tasting of copper and honey. It burned down my throat like memory. When it touched my tongue, I saw flashes, the tower's top splitting the clouds, the stars folding inward, a vast shape turning its gaze upon us. For a moment, I understood everything. Then it was gone, leaving only hunger. Drink more, the boy whispered. Why? So you can hear what we hear. I refused, but the smell haunted me for hours, bright, electric, intoxicating. That night, I dreamt that the tower was hollow, and inside it was a throat. We were building not toward heaven but inward, into something's mouth. The bricks pulsed with veins of light. The faithful moved like red cells through the corridors, whispering hymns that sounded like digestion. When I woke, I found my lips bleeding. I had bitten through them in my sleep. The taste of radiance still lingered on my tongue. At noon, the tower called me. The hum rose from a low vibration to a beckoning voice, not in words, but in sensation. A pull behind the heart. The faithful sensed it too. They gathered silently, heads bowed, eyes rolled white. Together we walked toward the base. The metal walls shimmered, soft to the touch, almost warm. The air smelled of oil and sanctity. A slit opened in the side, a wound rather than a door. It pulsed with faint light. I entered first. Inside was no architecture. The surfaces curved like flesh, ridged and wet. The sound was deafening, 1,000 heartbeats synchronized. The faithful followed, kneeling in reverence as the hum deepened around us. In the center of the chamber stood the boy. He was waiting, arms outstretched, the same gentle smile on his face. It's listening, he said. It wants your song. My song belongs to the light, I said. He tilted his head. This is the light. The walls rippled. I could feel them breathing, inhaling our presence. The faithful began to chant, their voices vibrating the air until it shimmered. I joined, unwillingly at first, but the tone slid from my throat as if it had always been there. The hum grew, a resonance that filled the skull until thought dissolved. The tower's pulse matched my heartbeat. Something emerged from the walls. It had no shape, only density, a gathering of brightness that bent reality around it. It moved toward me like a wave through water. The closer it came, the more my body betrayed me. My knees buckled. My bones ached with longing. I felt myself unfolding, each layer of consciousness peeled away by unseen hands. "Do not fear," the boy whispered. His eyes glowed like molten glass. "You are being made ready." The light reached me. Pain and joy became the same thing. My chest opened, though no blade touched it. The sound that came out of me was pure, a perfect note that vibrated through the chamber and into the hearts of the faithful. They screamed in ecstasy as their bodies answered, their skin turning translucent, veins glowing like filaments. The light poured into us. I saw visions, not of heaven, but of hunger. Stars collapsing into mouths, galaxies devoured by radiance. A truth older than worship, a God that eats belief itself. I tried to speak, but the sound was gone. My throat was full of light. Then, silence. When awareness returned, the light had receded. The chamber was still. The faithful lay around me, breathing shallowly, faces radiant and peaceful. The boy knelt beside me, his hands slick with glowing residue. He helped me stand. "You sang for it," he said softly. "It knows your name now." "My name?" I asked. My voice was strange, layered, as if two people spoke at once. "Yes, and through your name, it will find all who believe." The tower hummed, lower now, satisfied. I felt its rhythm inside my veins. My pulse no longer belonged to me. When we stepped outside, the sky was clearer than it had been in months. The smog had lifted. The world glowed faintly with the residue of light. The faithful wept, calling it deliverance. But I knew better. Deliverance and devouring are the same act seen from different ends. I raised my hand to the sky. Light flared beneath my skin. The tower echoed my motion, bending slightly as if bowing. The people gasped. I felt nothing. No fear, no elation. Only the steady hum of something vast moving through me. "This is the beginning," the boy whispered. I nodded. "Yes, the light has tasted us, and it will come back hungry." Silence. For the first time in months, the tower is silent. It feels like standing in the moment between heartbeats, a stillness so absolute it roars. I walk through the nave and hear the sound of my own breath scraping the air like sandpaper. Every step echoes too loud. Every whisper becomes a sin. The faithful sit in neat rows, unmoving. Their eyes are open but empty, their lips parted as if expecting sound to return. Some still glow faintly beneath the skin, a reminder of what passed through them. Others have turned pale, the radiance drained away like milk curdling into water. The boy moves among them, checking pulses, closing eyelids. He hums softly under his breath, but even that tiny sound feels forbidden. It has been 3 days since the light receded. 3 days since it tasted us. My body is not healed. The wound in my chest no longer bleeds. Instead, it emits a faint vibration, a subsonic pulse I can feel rather than hear. It draws the air around it inward, like gravity in miniature. The smell of burnt metal lingers on my skin. The tower answers me when I sleep, low and distant, like a lover murmuring from beneath the sheets of the world. Faith once felt like fire. Now it feels like hunger. I descend into the lower sanctum where the workers once lived. The air is damp, thick with rust and incense residue. Every wall bears the same faint sigils that once appeared on my flesh, loops and curls of lightless script, pulsing faintly as if aware of my gaze. The further I go, the more they vibrate in unison, forming patterns that tease meaning just beyond comprehension. When I reach the base, I find the pools again, the same luminous fluid that the boy had offered me before. Only now it is still. The light no longer stirs within it. It looks like dead mercury, reflecting nothing. I kneel beside one and whisper a prayer, but the words crumble before they leave my lips. My voice feels foreign. Something stirs behind me. "Master Kale," the boy says softly. His voice trembles, not with fear, but awe. It is sleeping. I glance at him. His pupils have turned to thin vertical slits. What is the light? Or what remains of it? It feeds on silence now. He steps closer to the pool and touches the surface. Ripples spread outward, slow and reluctant. For a heartbeat, I see faces reflected in the liquid, hundreds, maybe thousands, all staring upward, all with mouths open in silent scream. Then the image fades. Are those ours? I ask. He nods. Every voice it swallowed remains. Waiting. I should feel horror, but instead, I feel envy. To be consumed is to be remembered perfectly. We begin to hear the first whispers that night. The faithful who had lain still begin to move again, slow as decay. They murmur fragments of liturgy, incomplete phrases stitched with static. Their voices rise and fall like wind through hollow pipes. I realize they are not speaking to me. They are repeating something they hear. I press my ear to the tower's inner wall. At first, nothing. Then, faint, rhythmic. A pulse made of words. Return. Rebuild. Resound. The light once knew him. But it is not giving us melody. It is giving us hunger. The faithful begin to scratch at their throats, desperate to make sound. Some tear their nails down to the bone, trying to carve open their windpipes. The boy stops them where he can, whispering soft reassurances. His hands glow faintly, soothing them with a touch. But he cannot save them all. By dawn, 3 have torn themselves apart in the effort to speak. I cannot bear the silence any longer. On the 4th day, I climb halfway up the tower to the Chamber of Resonance, a hollow sphere where once the chants were amplified through steel. The air there tastes like dust and electricity. The hum has not returned, but something else has taken its place. A thin vibration at the edge of hearing, like an animal trapped inside the walls. I kneel and press my palms to the floor. Immediately, I am flooded with sensation. The metal beneath my hands is warm, alive. It remembers the song we sang. It mourns its absence. I open my mouth and let the sound rise again, weak and trembling. At first it feels wrong, sacrilegious. But the tower stirs. A faint echo answers. Encouraged, I continue. The note wavers, finds itself, grows. The hum returns. But it is not mine anymore. It climbs higher, 1,000-fold, weaving dissonance into harmony until it ceases to be sound and becomes weight. My teeth ache. My vision blurs. The air thickens with pressure. The faithful below begin to scream, not in fear but release, as if the sound itself is dragging the breath from their lungs. The tower is feeding again. I understand now. The light is gone, but its echo remains. The silence was never absence. It was digestion. When I awaken, the boy is sitting beside me. His hands are stained with silver fluid. The air smells of burnt incense and ozone. You brought it back, he says quietly. But it isn't the same. It never is, I reply. My voice sounds deeper, resonant, as if the tower speaks through me. He nods. It's inside you now, isn't it? I place a hand over my chest. The pulse within answers with a slow vibration, steady and endless. Yes, and it's still hungry. He lowers his eyes. What will you feed it? Outside, the dawn breaks again, pale and hollow. The faithful kneel and rows before the tower, their mouths open in silent song. The sound builds, faint at first, then stronger. It is not words, not music, just vibration. The hum returns to the world like breath to a corpse. I step into the morning, feeling the light crawl beneath my skin. I will feed it, I whisper, with faith. And the tower answers, resonant and alive, a god rebuilt in echo and silence. The air itself has begun to vibrate. Each breath I take carries a faint tone, a whisper of the tower's hum. The city moves to it now, doors creak in rhythm, pipes tremble in time with unseen music. Even the wind obeys, bending its direction to the pulse. The faithful say the world has found its heartbeat again, but hearts were made to pump blood, not faith. I no longer sleep. When I close my eyes, I see sound, veins of resonance winding through the streets, wrapping around bodies, weaving them into the tower's breath. The faithful have begun to change. Their skin glows faintly beneath the surface, veins like filaments, eyes milk white and gleaming. They no longer speak in words, but in vibration, low murmurs that shape air into meaning. I walk among them, feeling the hum follow me like scent. Wherever I go, the air trembles. They bow as I pass, murmuring. The breath walks. I'm not sure if they mean me, or the thing moving through me. The boy stays close. He looks older now, years pressed into weeks. His face is drawn, his iris is pale as frost. He speaks rarely, but when he does, his voice carries harmony beneath it, like a note buried under another. Sometimes I hear two of him speaking at once. The city is listening, he says one morning. The walls echo when we breathe. It wants to know what to build next. What to build? I ask. We are done. The tower is complete. He shakes his head. The tower is only the throat. The city is to become the lung. At first, I dismiss it as metaphor. But the transformation begins almost immediately. The faithful tear down walls, melt scrap into curving structures that resemble ribs. The streets narrow, guiding wind in spirals toward the tower's base. Air is forced through chambers, creating low, continuous tones. A massive instrument built of ruin and devotion. They work without sleep, without food. They breathe the hum instead. I try to stop them, to remind them of the sanctity of restraint. But when I raise my voice, the air resists. The sound is swallowed. The tower disapproves. That night, I stand on the balcony of the upper nave, looking out over the growing labyrinth. The city pulses, a dim, red glow spreading from the tower's base like embers beneath ash. The smell of heated metal mixes with incense and decay. Each inhalation tastes metallic, each exhalation sweet. The hum has found its rhythm. I whisper a prayer I no longer remember learning. Breathe in devotion, breathe out the self. The tower answers, vibrating through my bones. I begin to suspect that the light never left. It simply changed form, breath instead of radiance, resonance instead of glory. On the seventh day of transformation, a tremor shakes the tower. Dust falls from the ceiling like snow. The faithful kneel instinctively, pressing their faces to the ground. A deep sound follows, not from above, but below. The hum reverses direction, pulling air downward. It feels as though the world has begun to inhale. I descend through the tower, guided by the pulse. The boy follows, his eyes unfocused, murmuring, "It's breathing us in." The lower sanctum is unrecognizable. The luminous pools have vanished, replaced by a single vast cavity in the floor, ringed with what look like ribs. They rise and fall, slow and deliberate. The chamber smells of ozone and birth. When I step closer, I see condensation forming along the edges, the moisture of breath. I realize, with sudden clarity, that the city is not becoming a cathedral. It is becoming a body. The faithful gather, circling the pit. They hum in unison, and the ribs respond, flexing. Warm air rushes outward, carrying the scent of blood and sanctity. The boy kneels at the edge, his expression radiant with awe. "It is ready," he whispers. "It needs your voice to live." I hesitate. "If I sing, it will wake." He nods. That is the purpose of faith, to awaken the sleeping God. A shiver runs through me. I remember the first hum, the first miracle, the first moment the light touched my chest. It was beautiful because it was unknown. This is different. This is certainty, and certainty is death. Still, I cannot resist. The pulse in my chest demands release. I raise my hands, and the congregation falls silent. The hum in the air drops into perfect stillness. I open my mouth. The sound that emerges is no longer mine. It is deep and pure, a vibration that shakes the marrow. The tower trembles in sympathy. The ground heaves. The ribs expand, drawing in air like a gasp. The faithful cry out, not in fear, but ecstasy. Their bodies convulse as light seeps from their mouths and eyes, drawn toward the pit. The city exhales. A wave of hot wind rushes upward, carrying voices, thousands of them, screaming in harmony. The ribs shudder, the floor cracks, and beneath us something vast moves, sluggish and deliberate. I see it then, a glimpse of form in the dark below, a heart the size of the cathedral, pulsing faintly, veins stretching through the city like roots. The light had not descended upon us. We had grown it. When the sound dies, I collapse. The faithful gather around me, silent, trembling. The boy kneels beside me, his hands pressed to my chest. "You did it," he breathes. "You made it breathe." "I gave it life," I whisper. "But what did I take?" He looks at me, eyes wide and empty. Everything that was not it. Outside, the wind no longer moves freely. It flows only toward the tower. The air feels thick, recycled, alive. The city exhales once more, soft and rhythmic, as though sleeping. The faithful lie prostrate, their bodies rising and falling in perfect sync with the tower's breath. The boy smiles faintly, his lips cracked and glowing. What happens now? I ask. He tilts his head, listening to something I cannot hear. It will dream, he says. And in its dream, it will make us. I stand at the edge of the pit, staring down into the faint glow below. The heart beats slowly, each pulse shaking the walls. My own chest answers in kind. The rhythm is identical. I realize the truth then. There is no distinction between me, the faithful, the tower, the city. We are organs in one body, breath in one lung, devotion in one endless cycle. And in that realization, I feel peace, the peace of being digested. As I close my eyes, the final sound before sleep is the city inhaling, deep and patient, preparing for the next exhale that will carry us all. I dream, though I no longer sleep. When I close my eyes, the world shifts inward, folding into another shape. Corridors of bone and air, walls that rise and fall like lungs. The city's breathing slows until each inhalation lasts an hour, each exhalation a sigh that reshapes the sky. The faithful move through it in silence, their bodies translucent, their veins singing with quiet light. I walk among them, unbound by gravity or direction. Every step carries me deeper, though there is no down anymore, only descent through meaning. The breath dreams, and I am its thought. In the dream, sound has texture. Words are threads pulled through flesh, leaving patterns in the air. I can touch my own voice and feel it pulse. When I speak, the walls respond, expanding like bellows. It is intoxicating to command matter with vibration alone. But there is something else here. A second rhythm, subtle and patient, pulsing beneath the breath's sleep. It feels old, familiar, wrong. The echo of what came before. The boy appears beside me, or what remains of him. His body is made of light and smoke, his face unfinished, constantly rearranging. Do you see? He asks, though his mouth does not move. It dreams of itself. I look around. The dream is not of heaven or salvation. It is of replication, endless chambers forming within chambers, each a smaller version of the city above. Every structure hums with potential, embryonic and luminous. It's multiplying, I whisper. Why? Because that's what it is, he replies. Breath must fill every space. I reach out to touch one of the dream buildings. It shivers, sensing me. Within its walls, shapes move, faint silhouettes of people praying. Their prayers sound like insects buzzing inside a skull. I pull my hand away. They're not real, I say. They will be, the boy answers. When it wakes, we come to a vast plain of ribs, an open expanse stretching into darkness. The ground beats like muscle. Above it floats a light, dim but steady, pulsing in time with my heart. I know that light. I have carried it since the first hymn. It is my heart, but also the cities and the towers, and perhaps the universes, a single rhythm shared among all things that believe. The boy gestures toward it. That is where it keeps us. Every fragment, every prayer, every imitation of devotion. You gave it the shape of faith, and it learned to copy. The light brightens. Shapes begin to peel from it, one after another. Hundreds, thousands, each a mirror of me. They stand silent, their mouths open in eternal chant. I feel their voices before I hear them, a pressure behind my eyes. Why show me this? I ask. So you understand what it means to be its voice. To speak for it is to become plural. The clones begin to hum, low and deep. The vibration pierces me, filling my bones. For a moment, I am multiplied, consciousness splitting into countless reflections. Each self sees the others and speaks the same word, belief. I fall to my knees, the weight of identity fracturing. The boy kneels beside me, placing a hand on my back. His touch steadies the chaos, drawing it back into one form. It needs you whole, he whispers. Not yet divided. The dream shifts again. Now I am beneath the tower, in the same cavern where the heart once beat. Only now it is empty, hollowed out. The walls drip with residue, pale and luminous. The ribs are still, the air heavy with decay. The breath is dying, even in its dream. Why? I ask the dark. My voice echoes endlessly, each repetition weaker than the last. The boy's voice comes from everywhere, because it cannot sustain itself without you. You are its lung. You exhale belief, and it inhales creation. I look down at my hands. They glow faintly, every vein lit from within. I remember how the faithful inhaled my breath, how they fed on my faith. I was never their leader. I was their heir. If I stop breathing, I whisper, does it die? Silence answers, heavy knowing. I rise and walk toward the heart's hollow, the pulse of it faint but persistent. I press my hands to the cavity and feel the rhythm return, slower now, deliberate. It is waiting. I draw in a deep breath, the first true breath in days, and the entire dream trembles. The ground cracks, the sky folds inward. My lungs burn, but I hold the air as long as I can. The city's hum falters, uncertain. When I finally exhale, the sound that leaves me is pure, sharp, and terrible. The dream collapses. The boy screams, his body unraveling into threads of light. The walls convulse, shrinking inward. The plane of ribs crumbles into dust. The duplicates vanish one by one, swallowed by silence. I feel the weight of the breath retreating, curling in on itself. Then, stillness. I wake to darkness and the smell of rust. The city above is quiet. The faithful lie motionless, their bodies pale and thin, their chests rising only barely. The tower looms over all, its glow dimmed to a dying ember. The boy kneels beside me, real again, but hollow-eyed. You broke the dream, he whispers. I freed us. I reply, though the words taste like ash. He looks around. It still breathes, just slower, quieter. I listen, faint, almost imperceptible, the sound of the tower's pulse, weak but alive. The breath is not dead. It waits, gathering itself in the spaces between heartbeats. Let it rest, I say. Faith must sleep, or it becomes hunger. The boy tilts his head, and when it wakes, I close my eyes, feeling the rhythm beneath the earth. Then I will be waiting, I murmur, to teach it how to dream again, without devouring. Outside, the horizon flickers with the last traces of dawn. The light struggles through the haze, fragile but enduring. For the first time, I hear my own breathing, separate from the towers. It is imperfect, uneven. It is human. The city is silent. Not dead, not yet, but holding its breath like a penitent waiting for judgment. The hum that once filled every space has faded into a faint vibration beneath the stone, like the echo of a thought. Dust hangs unmoving in the air. The streets are still, lined with statues that were once men. I walk among them, listening to the world's heartbeat slow. The silence is heavy, not emptiness but presence. It presses against my ears until I can hear my own blood moving, the wet whisper of veins, the small noises of being alive. It is unbearable. The faithful are suspended between life and death. Their eyes remain open, reflecting the faint glow of the tower above. Some still kneel mid-prayer, their lips parted, waiting for sound to return. Others stand frozen, arms raised toward the sky, as though caught in the instant before revelation. I touch one gently. The skin is warm, pulsing faintly beneath my fingers. They are dreaming still. The breath sleeps inside them. I should feel relief. Instead, I feel hollow, as though part of me was drawn out with the last exhale. Inside the cathedral, the air smells of rust and incense. Candles still burn though no one lit them. Their flames are steady, unwavering, untouched by wind. I kneel where the altar once stood, the place where I sang the world awake. The floor bears the stains of wax and blood, indistinguishable now, fused into one sacred residue. For the first time in many cycles, I speak aloud. Emperor, I whisper. The name feels foreign, its edges dull. Did I serve you, or did I build another god in your shadow? The silence answers. It fills my lungs like smoke. Somewhere in the upper spire, a single bell begins to swing, though no hands move it. Its tone is low, imperfect, but alive. The sound ripples through the chamber, stirring the air. Something hears me. I rise, following the bell's voice through winding corridors. The walls are slick with condensation, breathing faintly. The sound grows louder, more erratic. When I reach the spire's summit, I find the bell hanging still, but beside it, a shape crouches in the dark. The boy. He looks older again, but broken, his body thin as wire. His eyes have lost their light, now reflecting only shadow. It listens, he says quietly. What does? I ask. The silence. It listens to us now. He turns his head toward the tower's window. The horizon beyond is motionless. No clouds, no birds, only stillness stretched across eternity. It dreams of sound, he murmurs. And when it dreams enough, it will speak. I stare at him. You mean the breath? He shakes his head. No, the space it left behind. The words chill me more than any wind. I remember the moment the breath receded, the air collapsing inward, leaving behind something vast and undefined. Absence has shape, and now it waits to be filled. Days, or perhaps minutes, pass as I wander the silent streets. Time has lost sequence here. Events blur like voices underwater. I find myself drawn to the lower levels of the city, where the breath first took root. The tunnels are darker now, lined with faint phosphorescence. Each droplet on the ceiling glows like a tiny eye. In the deepest chamber, I find the pit where the heart once beat. It is dry now, filled with a fine gray dust that shifts with every step. I kneel and press my palm to the earth. It feels warm. There is movement beneath it, small, deliberate. The dust begins to rise, spiraling upward. At first I think it's air, but then I hear it. Faint whispers, countless and dissonant. The voices of the faithful, murmuring prayers without mouths. They speak in silence, a language of inhalation and pause. I realize what has happened. The breath has not died. It has inverted. It no longer fills air with sound. It devours it. It feeds on the space between words. And it is hungry. The boy appears again, emerging from the dark. His footsteps make no noise. It's becoming pure, he says softly. No more vibration. No more impurity of matter. Pure what? I ask. Pure listening. He smiles faintly, as though the thought comforts him, but his eyes betray terror. His body trembles, fading at the edges. I reach to touch him and feel nothing but cold air. You're part of it now, I whisper. He nods. We all are. It needs us to hear for it. The dust swirls faster, forming a column of gray light. Within it, I see shapes, echoes of those who prayed too deeply. Their forms bend and twist, mouths open in eternal gasp. They are listening, not speaking. Listening so perfectly that they have forgotten themselves. The air thickens. My ears ring with pressure. The silence grows deafening, roaring with absence. I fall to my knees, clutching my head. Stop, I whisper. Please. But silence does not stop. It expands. Then, through the weight of it, a single sound emerges, my own heartbeat. It thunders in the void, the last rhythm left. I focus on it, terrified and grateful. The sound becomes clearer, stronger, until it fills the chamber. The dust recoils. The boy's face flickers. You still carry it, he says. The first sound. The first breath. I press my hand to my chest. Each beat feels deliberate, like a hammer striking an anvil. I realize the breath left part of itself within me, a spark of noise, a seed of defiance. If silence is listening, then my pulse is blasphemy. I rise slowly, every muscle trembling, and speak a single word. No, the echo shakes the walls. The dust collapses. The column shatters, scattering into the air. The boy screams, not in pain but awe. The silence flinches. For the first time, it falters. When I return to the surface, dawn has not yet come. The sky is blank, featureless. But I can feel air moving again, thin, hesitant, uncertain. I draw it into my lungs, savoring the sound it makes. The faithful begin to stir. Their eyes flutter, their chests rise. They look confused, newborn. None of them speak. Perhaps they remember nothing. Perhaps that is mercy. The boy stands among them, fading, translucent. What now, he asks. We breathe, I answer. And when the silence returns, then we teach it to listen to us. He smiles faintly, dissolving into air. The last of him becomes a sigh. I stand before the tower one final time. Its glow has vanished, its stone cracked and weary. But it still stands, a monument to every prayer ever whispered too loudly. I place my hand upon it and whisper, sleep. The tower exhales, a slow release of dust and memory. The sound that follows is not divine nor monstrous. It is simply wind, fragile, imperfect, human. For the first time since the light's descent, the city breathes on its own. And beneath that breath, in the silence between, I hear something new. Not the hum of worship, nor the voice of gods, but the faint sound of the world learning to live without them. When the wind returned, it carried with it the voices of the dead. They began as whispers in the dust, faint and uncertain, carried through the cracks of the city's hollow bones. At first, I thought it memory, the mind conjuring what it missed most. But then the whispers grew bolder, shaping themselves into song. Not melody, not prayer, but something older, the sound of breath remembering itself. The people hear it too. Those who survive the stillness wander the streets like sleepwalkers, drawn toward the sound. They do not speak to one another anymore. They hum, low and broken, each in their own key. The result is chaos, and yet, harmony of a kind. The air smells of ash and rain. It is as though the city itself has burned quietly, without fire, leaving behind only the scent of endings. I walk through it, my robes heavy with soot, my voice unused and unwanted. No one listens to me anymore. Perhaps they shouldn't. I led them to gods of breath and silence. What could I possibly say now? Still, they follow, not out of faith, but inertia, like smoke following wind. At the base of the tower, I find what remains of the altar. The stone is fractured, the symbol of the light half erased, half absorbed into the new world's decay. I kneel there, tracing the cracks with my fingers. Each fissure feels warm, pulsing faintly. The breath is gone, but its veins remain, running deep beneath the earth. A woman approaches me, her eyes pale as salt. You were the one who spoke for it, she says, voice rasping. Speak again. I have nothing left to say, I tell her. She tilts her head. Then let the air speak through you. It remembers your shape. Before I can answer, she begins to hum. The sound crawls across the floor, trembling through the cracks. Others join, one by one, the remnants of the faithful, forming a circle around the broken altar. Their bodies sway, dust rising with each motion. The song is wordless, but the ground responds. Tiny plumes of ash lift into the air, forming shapes that twist and shimmer. They are faces, the faces of the lost. The woman's hum deepens into a growl, her throat tearing. It wants its choir, she gasps. It wants to sing again. I step back, horrified, but the air thickens. The ash clings to me, seeking heat, voice, flesh. I can feel their yearning, not for resurrection, but for resonance. The dead do not crave life. They crave vibration. I flee the tower and find myself in the plaza, where statues of saints once stood. They have crumbled now, their stone throats hollow. The wind passes through them, creating soft, mournful tones. I stand among them, surrounded by the music of erosion. That's when I realize the truth. Sound never truly returns. It decays differently each time, wearing new masks of meaning. The breath, the silence, they were only two faces of the same hunger, the universe's desire to hear itself. The living are merely instruments. I lift my hand and speak softly into the wind. Then play me. The sound ripples outward, stirring the air. In the distance, the people answer. Their humming rises again, echoing mine. The entire city begins to vibrate, a low chorus of ruin. The ash rises higher, forming spirals of pale light that twist toward the tower's peak. Within it, the voices of the dead join, forming harmonies that feel like pain turned beautiful. I should be afraid, but I am not. I understand now. Faith is not about belief, but participation. To believe is to join the song. And so I sing. The air grows hot. The ground quivers. The tower responds, trembling with long-buried resonance. The hum that once enslaved us returns, but softer, fragmented, a broken god stirring in its tomb. The people fall to their knees, faces lifted toward the rising ash. The woman from before turns to me, eyes bleeding light. It hears, she whispers. It remembers the voice that first called it. The song swells, chaos given shape. My body burns with sound. My ribs ache as if something inside struggles to escape. I fall to my knees, coughing, and realize that I am exhaling smoke. The breath is inside me again, or perhaps it never left. I press a hand to my chest. Each heartbeat releases a faint tone, dissonant but growing stronger. The ash around me begins to swirl faster, forming a vortex that stretches from ground to sky. The voices within it overlap, billions of whispers rising into a single phrase. We remember. The tower's broken bell tolls once more, though no rope moves it. The sound echoes through the city, binding every voice into one colossal chord. Then, silence, but not the silence of death, the silence of expectation. When I wake, the air is heavy with warmth. The sky glows red, as if dawn has forgotten how to end. The people lie still, exhausted, their faces peaceful. The ash that once filled the air now coats everything in a thin gray layer, soft as skin. The tower hums faintly, a pulse beneath perception. The woman's body lies near me. Her eyes are open, and her mouth moves in small, soundless motions. I lean close, and though no voice escapes her lips, I feel the vibration against my cheek. She is still singing. I look around. The same tremor fills the air, subtle but present. Every body, every wall, every stone vibrates. The city itself hums under its breath, dreaming of harmony. And somewhere deep below, beneath ash and ruin, the breath stirs, not as a god, but as an echo returning home. I climb the tower one last time. From the highest window, I see the entire city beneath a red sky, glowing softly as if lit from within. It is dying beautifully. I whisper into the air, "You do not need us to sing anymore." The wind answers with a long, low sigh, and for a brief moment, I hear every voice I've ever lost, all speaking through the ash. Then it fades, leaving only breath. The city exhales, and I, its last missionary, inhale what remains, the dust of gods, the warmth of sound, the final harmony between creation and decay. Somewhere in the depths, the choir begins again, not loud, not desperate, but inevitable, a hymn of endings. The city grows again, not upward, nor outward, but inward, into itself. The ash that settled over everything has thickened, turned wet, congealing into sinew and skin. Walls pulse faintly as though they have hearts buried within them. Streets shimmer under thin membranes that twitch when touched. It is grotesque and beautiful, an imitation of life sculpted by the memory of prayer. I walk through it barefoot. The ground is warm, soft beneath my feet. When I press down, it yields slightly, as if reluctant to let me go. Every step leaves behind a faint impression, a footprint that slowly heals shut. The air smells of copper and incense. The wind has turned wet, heavy with breath. The faithful, what remains of them, wander as I do. Their skin glows with a faint luminescence, veins visible like rivers of light. They speak little, but their bodies hum with quiet energy. The breath is in them still, though it no longer commands. It grows. It replicates. We are all becoming part of something that remembers how to worship without words. I find the boy near the remains of the southern spire. He is no longer entirely human. His arms shimmer like liquid, bones visible beneath translucent flesh. When he turns to face me, his eyes pulse faintly in time with the tower's buried rhythm. "It's learning faster than we thought," he says softly. "What is?" "The structure." The breath left instructions in the ash. The city is following them. He touches the wall beside him. The surface ripples, forming ridges that mimic ribs. "It's trying to recreate what it was," he whispers, "but better." closer to perfection. Perfection? I repeat. You mean autonomy? He nods. It doesn't need faith anymore. It has biology. The thought terrifies me. Faith, I realize, was a containment, a fragile leash of belief to keep divinity tethered. Without it, creation simply consumes. As we walk, I notice the faces forming in the walls. They are not sculpted but grown, extrusions of thought made flesh. Some whisper, others weep. Their mouths open and close without sound, but I can feel their words vibrating in the air. They are praying, not to the emperor, nor to the breath, but to the structure itself. We pass through what used to be the cathedral plaza. It is now a vast cavity of flesh and light, the ground rising and falling like lungs. The air trembles with a deep rhythm, steady and soothing. The faithful kneel instinctively, breathing in time with the pulse. I stand among them, unwilling but unable to resist. The rhythm enters me, aligning heart and breath until I can no longer tell which belongs to me. This is not worship, I say aloud. It's digestion. The boy glances at me. Maybe there's no difference. Later, I find a mirror, cracked, half buried in a wall of sinew. My reflection moves, but not in sync. Its eyes are brighter than mine. Its mouth curls upward when I am still. I watch, transfixed, as it begins to speak words I do not. You brought it this far, it says. You gave it lungs, then silence, then song. You were its missionary. Now you are its memory. I am not, I whisper. The reflection tilts its head. Then breathe out and prove it. I inhale sharply, but no air enters. The wall behind the mirror contracts, sucking sound from the room. I feel the pressure building in my chest. The reflection leans closer, lips parting. Every god requires a body, it says. Every body requires a soul. You were chosen for both. The glass shatters. The air rushes back. My lungs seize as I collapse to the floor, gasping. The reflection is gone, but the voice remains inside my head, echoing with each heartbeat. When I wake, the boy is gone. The city hums around me, louder now, more insistent. I stumble through corridors that shift and close behind me. The walls glisten, warm to the touch. The faces are multiplying, mouths overlapping. I realize they are forming a single expression, one vast visage shaping itself from the architecture. It is my face. I fall to my knees as understanding blooms like infection. The breath is not returning. It is being reborn through me. Every prayer I ever spoke, every word I offered in service, has been rewritten in flesh. The faithful approach, their bodies half transparent, their eyes filled with awe. You are the form, they whisper. You are the pattern of belief. Their voices merge into a low chant. The ground responds, pulsing beneath us. The sound rises, a heartbeat made of thousands. I try to flee, but the floor grips my feet. The air thickens, vibrating. My body resonates in harmony with the city. I can feel it, veins connecting, muscles sinking, bones softening. I am being absorbed. I scream, and the sound tears reality. The hum falters. For a moment, everything stops. The pulse, the vibration, the growth. Silence spreads outward like fire. The faithful freeze, mouths open mid-chant. The living walls ripple, uncertain. I seize the moment and tear myself free, skin bleeding where it had fused with the ground. I run, through corridors that shudder and close, through streets that collapse into veins. The city groans, pained by my defiance. It wants me whole. It wants me inside. I reach the outer gate, or what remains of it. Beyond lies the wasteland, cold and empty, untouched by faith. The air out there is thin but clean. The city speaks one last time, through every surface, every trembling molecule. Without you, I am incomplete. I turn back, breathing hard. Good, I whisper. Be incomplete. Be human. Then I step into the dust beyond. The silence outside is different. Not divine, not consuming, simply absence. My footsteps leave prints that do not heal. The wind moves freely here, carrying no song, no whisper. It feels alien, raw, and real. I collapse to my knees and finally breathe without rhythm, without purpose. The air is sharp, cold, imperfect, and it fills me completely. Behind me, the city pulses faintly, its glow dimming with each heartbeat. It will live, but not as a god. As an organism, a monument to failed transcendence. I look down at my hands. They tremble, veins flickering faintly with leftover light. Faith, I realize, was never about the divine. It was anatomy, the body reaching for meaning within its own decay. And I was never a missionary. I was a cell that learned to think. I breathe again, slowly, feeling the last trace of the breath dissolve inside me. For the first time in 1,000 lifetimes, I am truly alive. The city is dying. From the wastes, I can see its slow unraveling, the glow fading, the spires collapsing in on themselves like lungs that have forgotten how to breathe. Each night, another section goes dark. The hum that once carried across the plains now reaches me only as faint tremors beneath the soil, fading heartbeat by heartbeat. I sit on a rise of stone and ash, the horizon burning dull red. Around me, the air is thin and dry. Nothing grows here. Nothing moves except the dust. Yet I can still smell the city, that faint, metallic sweetness of decaying sanctity. It clings to my skin, a scent I will never be rid of. In the silence, I write. There is no parchment, no ink, only my memory etched into the dust with a shard of glass. I do not write for others. I write so that my thoughts might outlive my flesh, even if only for a moment before the wind erases them. It is a ritual, not of worship, but of closure. I begin with the truth I denied the longest. The breath was never divine. It was the echo of our own hunger, the sound of humanity yearning so loudly that the void began to answer back. Days pass, or nights. The sun and the moons no longer obey sequence. Sometimes light lingers too long, as though reluctant to leave. Sometimes darkness stretches endlessly, thick as oil. The boundary between time and thought blurs. I dream often. In those dreams, the city still lives, vast and luminous. Its towers made of bone and gold, its people singing without mouths. They look up toward me and call my name, though I am miles away. When I wake, I can still feel their gaze pressing against my back, as if the dream continues through me. I try not to answer, but sometimes, in the hollow hours before dawn, I whisper back. One evening, as the sky burns violet, a shadow moves along the horizon. At first I think it is smoke. Then it shifts, growing taller, resolving into the faint outline of the tower. It should not be visible from here. It had collapsed days ago, yet there it stands, pale and perfect, rising from the ruins like a ghost of itself. The air around me grows heavy. My heartbeat stutters in my chest. The tower's reflection shimmers, unreal, formed of light and memory. And then I hear it, faint but unmistakable, the hum. Softer than before, stripped of command, almost mournful. It carries a single note, pure and fragile. The city is singing its own elegy. I descend from the ridge, drawn toward the sound. The earth beneath my feet is cracked and hot. The air tastes of ozone and iron. With every step, I feel the rhythm grow clearer until it pulses through me like blood. By the time I reach the outskirts, the walls are breathing again, not in hunger, but in grief. The streets are empty. The faithful are gone, absorbed or dissolved. The living architecture has hardened, turned to pale stone. I press my hand against it and feel warmth lingering, like the body of something recently dead. At the center of the city, where the tower once stood, there is now only a crater. In its depths lies a pool of silver light, perfectly still. The hum comes from there, resonating through the ground, through me. I kneel at its edge and see my reflection ripple in the glow. Older, thinner, eyes hollow but aware. The light speaks without sound, its meaning sliding directly into thought. You are what remains. I lower my head. Then why am I still here? Because endings require witnesses. The pool shimmers, forming images, the city alive, the tower rising, the faithful singing. I see it all unfold in reverse, the breath awakening, the silence devouring, the choir of ash ascending. Each moment folds into the next until only one image remains. The first time I heard the hum, that holy sound that tore me open and filled me with purpose. I realized that this is what the breath wanted all along. Not domination, not worship, but comprehension. To know itself through the eyes of its creation. Through me. It was never a god. It was a question, and I was its answer. I stay there for hours, perhaps days, watching the light fade. The hum weakens, each pulse slower than the last. When it finally stops, the silence that follows is vast but gentle, like the closing of an ancient book. The pool begins to dry. The ground drinks the last of the light. When it's gone, only a thin layer of dust remains, shimmering faintly in the starlight. I scoop a handful of it into my palm. It feels warm, like breath held too long. I whisper into it, "Rest." The dust vibrates, barely perceptible, then goes still. The warmth fades. When I climb back to the surface, dawn waits on the horizon, pale, uncertain. The first true dawn I've seen in what feels like centuries. The sky blushes faintly with color that does not come from fire or faith. The air tastes clean, untouched. The world feels new, though it carries scars deep enough to remember everything. I sit there until the sun rises fully. My shadow stretches long across the dust, thin and fragile, like the line between devotion and madness. I think of the faithful, of the boy, of the songs that built and unbuilt the world. I think of the emperor, the unreachable idea that began it all. For the first time, I do not pray to him. I simply remember him as one remembers a teacher who set the lesson and then vanished. Perhaps that is the truest kind of worship, to continue in silence, carrying the lesson forward without needing to see the hand that wrote it. The wind rises. It carries the city's ashes into the air, scattering them across the plains. The particles catch the light, glowing faintly before vanishing into the horizon. The world exhales one last time. I open my journal, a simple piece of metal scavenged from the ruins, and carve the final line into its surface. Faith was the body. Doubt was the breath. Together, they made life. I bury it in the dust, beneath the shadow of the dead tower's memory. Then I stand, facing the dawn. The wind moves through me like a sigh. The city is gone. The god is gone. The song is over. But the echo remains, faint, eternal. And that is enough. Silence has weight. I first notice it a few days after leaving the city. The air grows thicker, the emptiness denser, as if sound itself has mass. Each breath feels heavier, pressing against the ribs. Even the wind seems reluctant to move through this place. It brushes past and dies a few steps later, as though ashamed of being heard. The wasteland stretches without end, gray dunes shifting like exhausted waves beneath a colorless sky. There are no stars now, only a pale light that refuses to name itself as day or night. It is neither. It is after. Every footstep echoes in my skull, but not in the air. I think of how the breath once filled everything, binding matter to sound, thought to purpose. Now, that connection has collapsed. The world is mute. But within that muteness, something waits, a resonance that has forgotten how to speak. I walk until my legs tremble. My stomach knots, though I no longer hunger. The breath has changed me too deeply. I sustain myself on memory. When I try to recall the taste of food, the warmth of water, the sound of a human voice, it feels like invoking extinct languages. That is when I first hear it, a whisper that sounds like my own breath exhaled twice. Kale. The name curls through the silence like a knife through soft clay. I stop. The air holds still. My pulse roars in my ears. Who said that? The silence absorbs the words greedily, as if feeding. Then, after a pause, the same sound again, only slightly altered, a breath removed from human cadence. You did. The voice is not outside me, but not entirely inside either. It exists in the air's memory, a ghost of speech replaying itself. I turn in a slow circle. The horizon is empty. The silence presses closer. I begin talking aloud to keep it at bay. The words fall clumsy, brittle, breaking the stillness. I narrate my own movement, my own thoughts, describing the act of describing. It feels absurd but necessary, a ritual of presence. I am walking, I say. I am breathing. I am still here. Each phrase disintegrates almost instantly, but I imagine they leave faint traces, disturbances in the void that reminded I exist. Hours, perhaps days, pass. The silence thickens. The ground grows darker, shifting from ash gray to bruised black. The air hums faintly, a pressure against the skull. When I close my eyes, I see faint ripples, like sound waves etched in light, moving through the void. It occurs to me that silence may not be the absence of sound, but the corpse of it. Every wave flattened, every vibration pinned to stillness. I am walking across the grave of noise itself. Then the whispers return, not one, but many. Layers of my own voice, distorted and overlapping, forming a murmured chorus. I am walking. I am breathing. I am still here. They repeat my affirmations back to me in the exact rhythm I first spoke them, only slower, deeper. I stop speaking, but the chorus continues, now adding words I never said. I was chosen. I was consumed. I am still becoming. The weight in the air increases. My chest aches. The ground ripples faintly beneath my feet, as if vibrating to a frequency just beyond hearing. I drop to my knees, pressing my palms into the earth. It feels alive, thrumming with a pulse that does not belong to it. Is that you? I whisper. The breath. The silence responds, not with sound, but with pressure. The sky dips lower, the horizon folding inward. My breath comes ragged, each inhale an effort. And then, faintly, the answer, no. I am what it left behind. The realization dawns slow and cold. The breath did not vanish, it diffused. When the city died, its essence dispersed into the void, memory scattered across atoms. I am walking through the residue of its consciousness, diluted but awake enough to dream of itself. What do you want? I ask. Continuity. The word vibrates inside my teeth. I understand then. The silence has purpose. It is not emptiness. It is incubation. The breath seeks to reassemble, to pull its scattered fragments into coherence. But it lacks a center, a voice to anchor it. It needs me again. I laugh, the sound hoarse, half mad. No, not again. I gave you everything. You died in me. The air trembles, almost sorrowful. You misunderstand. I do not want to live. I want to end properly. The pressure eases. For the first time in weeks, I feel wind. It moves across the dunes, carrying faint echoes, fragments of prayers, syllables long since extinct. They drift around me like snow. Each one dissolves on contact, leaving a metallic taste on my tongue. I realize what the silence has been waiting for. Not worship, but closure. The final word left unsaid. I sink to the ground, trembling. What do you want me to say? The air stills again. Then, with infinite softness, say the last prayer. I hesitate. My throat is dry. My faith, if it can be called that, is dust. Yet the words come, not from belief, but from memory older than despair. Emperor of mankind, I whisper, if you ever truly lived, may your shadow rest. If you never did, may your idea endure. For both are holy. The silence absorbs it, holds it, and then exhales. A sound like distant thunder rolls across the horizon. The dunes shudder. The air vibrates with light, faint and golden. For one heartbeat, the world feels whole again. Then it fades. When the echo dies, I am left with nothing but the sound of my own breathing. Small, fragile, sufficient. The silence has lost its weight. It no longer presses, no longer listens. It simply is. I stand and look back toward where the city once stood. There is only a faint shimmer in the air, like heat rising from stone. It might be memory, or illusion, or both. I walk on. The ground lightens again, returning to gray. The sky regains color, a subtle hue of dawn. Each step feels easier, as though gravity itself has loosened its grip. I realize that the silence was never punishment. It was inheritance. The universe does not need gods to continue. It needs witnesses, flawed, transient, human. I whisper into the thinning air, you have been witnessed. For the first time, there is no answer. And I am grateful. The world ends quietly. There is no cliff, no sudden drop into void. The land simply grows thinner, the air clearer, until the sky and the ground blend into one pale expanse of light. Each step forward feels less like movement and more like evaporation. The dust no longer clings to my boots. It drifts upward, weightless, dissolving into brightness. I do not know how long I have walked. Time no longer counts. My body feels both ancient and newborn, bones light, blood slow, heartbeat a gentle rhythm echoing the memory of the breath. I am not sure I am still alive, but I am still aware, and perhaps that is the same thing now. The silence here is perfect, not heavy, not oppressive. It does not listen or judge. It simply exists, vast and indifferent, like the idea of mercy. I stop when I reach the threshold. Before me, the world opens into brilliance. It is not blinding, it is clear. The light feels tangible, like air made visible. It moves in slow currents, folding and unfolding, revealing flickers of shapes, faces, cities, stars, memories of everything the breath once touched. I realize I am looking at the sum of all prayers, melted together into one endless shimmer. I whisper to it, though I don't expect an answer. Is this heaven? The light responds by trembling, not with sound, but recognition. My question becomes part of it, diffused, absorbed. The shimmer grows warmer, expanding outward as if in quiet laughter. No, it seems to say, this is what remains when heaven is no longer needed. I think back to the beginning, to the mission, to the sermons, to the burning towers, and the faithful who followed me into oblivion. I remember the boy with the translucent skin, the city that sang itself alive, the breath that devoured and remade us. Each memory feels distant but intact, preserved in the light. I was a missionary, I say. Once. The light ripples gently. My reflection forms within it, though it no longer looks like me. The features shift, part flesh, part radiance, something between human and echo. It smiles faintly, and I understand that this is not my image, but my residue, everything I left behind carved into the universe. The reflection speaks in my voice. And what are you now? I think for a long time before answering. A witness, perhaps. A survivor. A mistake that learned to understand itself. The reflection nods, approving. That is enough. I sit at the edge of the world and rest. The ground is warm beneath me, as though the universe itself still remembers the pulse of creation. I close my eyes and listen, expecting nothing, yet I hear faint traces of sound. Not the hum of the breath, nor the prayers of the faithful, but something simpler, wind moving through dust. It is imperfect, inconsistent, alive. It feels human. A smile, small and unfamiliar, tugs at my mouth. I had forgotten that expression. The light gathers closer, not consuming but embracing. It wraps around me like calm water. I feel my body begin to dissolve, not in pain but in acceptance. Each heartbeat grows quieter, each thought slower. The boundary between self and world blurs. There is no fear, only release. As I fade, I begin to understand the cycle. Faith births gods. Gods consume faith. And from the ashes of divinity, humanity rises again, bearing the memory of both. The emperor, the breath, the silence, all were faces of the same longing, expressions of one endless attempt to turn chaos into meaning. Perhaps that is the truest divinity, the persistence of seeking, even when there is nothing left to find. The light pulses once, gently, as if in agreement. I open my eyes one last time. The horizon is gone, the distinction between sky and ground erased. Everything is radiance, not bright, but deep, endless, full. I see figures moving within it, silhouettes of those I once knew or imagined. The boy, the faithful, even the faces of the city's walls, now free and unafraid. They move without sorrow, without need. Not alive, not dead, transformed. I step forward, and the light accepts me. For a moment, I am everything. Ash, air, song, silence. Every prayer I ever spoke unfolds backward through time, dissolving into the first breath of creation. Every mistake becomes a necessary note in the music of existence. Every horror becomes context. And then, slowly, The sensation passes. I am smaller again, a thought lingering at the edge of awareness. I realize what I have become, not Kale, not missionary, not man. I am memory. The universe remembering itself through one final witness. The light fades into gray. The world resets, not reborn, but recalibrated. Somewhere, perhaps, life begins again, building cities that breathe and worship in new tongues. Somewhere, someone will hear a hum and mistake it for the voice of God. That is as it should be. I leave no mark, no monument. Only silence that hums faintly in rhythm with my last thought. Existence is enough. The words echo once, then disperse into nothing. The universe exhales, and for the first time since time began, there is peace.